Number 3 is what is really near and dear to my heart. I am an internal medicine doctor, and it's the succinct science. Like one of the first videos in that module 1 is called Snake Oil Salesman, and I think it's fantastically appropriate that some of the stuff that's claimed on the ketogenic diet is wacky, but some of it has science behind it. And how do you find the person that's going to filter through saying, that's junk news, don't do that, here's some evidence of what we can say and what we can do? And as energetic and as committed as I am to teaching people about the ketogenic diet, what my first job is to only to let the evidence of the science be part of what I share. And unfortunately, that takes a ton of time. I can't believe the number of articles. I mean, I think I'm over 700 articles, that the bibliography would be longer than the book if I put them all in the book, because it's just so much that has taken the time to really unpack that science and say, what's the wheat versus the chaff? And so as I look at succinct science, I first start with, okay, you want succinct science, you want to look at the way other people have changed behavior, you need something measurable. So the first thing measurable in the ketogenic diet is 20 grams of carbs per day. That I talk about using the Cronometer app, and if you're looking for that, it's a free app, but it is really built in the science about how it's not, okay, these apps are built from open source people where they send in data. And a lot of the big apps, it's great. Programmers love open source help because it's free. But what happens is that the data that gets in the app hasn't been double checked. And in many ways, they do random checks, but they don't do every check, except Cronometer. The Cronometer app, if you go to bozmd.com and you go to Dr. Boz Favorites, you can find the Cronometer app. Download it. It's for free. But it allows you to measure accurately. The number of patients that I've had fall away only to come back to the clinic in tears saying that diet didn't work for me had everything to do with the app I was telling them to use then wasn't measuring correctly. So this app is very powerful in that it's free, but it's evidence-based. And if I ever need to find a problem, or if your healthcare provider needs to find the problem, at least that app can teach me. So if you're going to spend the money, or not money, the time to learn a process, please make it sure that it's a science-based application. If you look at measurability, the 20 grams or less per day was the first part, but the next part that you'll hear me often talking about, and right at the beginning of this podcast, was that you measure your blood units for glucose and ketones. Now, not everybody needs to do this. As I look at people trying to answer the question, should I join your class or not? I don't have one of those ketone monitors. I'm like, no, not everybody needs a ketone monitor. Not everybody needs a ketone monitor. They are wonderful, and they really do help you with the ketogenic process in an advanced case, but not everybody needs to be advanced. My mom and I used urine ketones for 6 months, and we did just fine. We did not need the advanced measurements. We really needed to hone in on a behavior change that we could handle and not get lost with the numbers, with pricking your finger. This process of really honing in behavior is cheap. Use this. And I think some of these lessons are where people get so overwhelmed saying, I need to poke my finger. I'm like, no, you need to count 20 carbs per day or less. And you need to pee on that stick. And that is what they do for the first season. And people say, well, what season am I in? I'm like, well, that depends. Which brings me to the roadmap. So when I look at the core of this curriculum that I'm about to go through in this Consistently Keto course, I call it the Keto Continuum, with the word keto in lowercase letters and continuum in uppercase letters. And I just really think it represents where are you in this process. If you look at that column test there, you'll see that the urine ketones are absolutely what you need to be measuring for this season, for those first 4 to 6 weeks. If they choose to measure blood, it's not bad, it's just not necessary by any means. And what is necessary is that you focus, that you go through those steps that I put in that first module to say, prepare. So many of the people that reach out to me are in their, fifth, sixth, seventh decade of life, and they have a lot of chronic illness. Their internal medicine doctor has a long list to cover in that 20 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever they see them for. And I will tell you, this process needs to be focused on this step first. And I go through that saying, you want to succeed, here's the rules. Here's what I would do if you were in my clinic. And these are the steps that I would, when I have keto coaches reaching out to me saying, what would you do with this case? I often think of, had they only just done these steps before starting the patient on this process, it would have never happened. And there's been serious things where they dropped their blood pressures so quickly that the 80-year-old, she was actually in her mid-70s, fell. She fell and bonked her head. She ended up in the ICU with a concussion. And the coach is just horrified. The keto coach was. You're right, that's horrible. No one would feel good about that. But it was totally preventable. It was totally preventable. So I really hope that if you're a keto coach or know anybody that's a keto coach, I would love your feedback on this course. And the Consistently Keto videos will be available for a lifetime once you've taken the course. And I hope you use them to run your own support groups, saying, all right, I'm not going to teach you this. I'm going to let Dr. Boz do the teaching, and then I'll shoot cleanup, which really lifts the burden off of those keto coaches who, they're not medical doctors often. I mean, there are plenty that are nurses and well-educated, but think of it as keto coach in a box, to say, use them to help you so you can focus on what I can't do, which is loving them and being in relationship with them and walking them through how to be graceful to themselves. You cannot teach that in a doctor's office. I can teach the science through a video. I cannot be in relationship with them, and that is way more important. It's just not as accessible, which is what I'm hoping to do with this. So as you look at, the first section is of the modules that are in this course and very much in the book. The book that I'm writing actually, it cases another patient. It's not Grandma Rose, but it is somebody who struggles and has a lot of hidden problems, but walks through these keto continuums telling his story. And I think it's turning out pretty good. But as I go through this curriculum and say, where was he when this happened? Where did he happen when this happened? What I hope to learn in this course is to teach me, did I cover it? Did I hit the mark of teaching it in a way that you understood? And of course, where I really want the patient to get to is these baseline metabolisms. The baseline metabolisms are my favorite. They are keto continuum number 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we don't get to that until the fourth module, but it is where the crick of the science comes from. I really believe that if you can find one of these baseline metabolisms in its true form, like I got a lot of people who say they're OMAD, and I'm like, don't use that word with me. I want you to say you're 23 and 1, and we go through what that means. It's not just a pet peeve. It really is. I need to know if we're speaking the same language, because if you're failing and you really are 23 and 1, it means something. But if you're not, then I need to have you help me. Anyway, so these 4 curriculums, these baseline metabolisms, are where people live for a lifetime. In fact, the star of the book, he lives at keto continuum number 5. He has advanced to some of these other ones, but really has found his rhythm and is an amazing restoration of his health at keto continuum number 5. And you'll notice that he really didn't have to start checking his blood strips until I got him down to number 8 for a little bit. 7 and 8, I do want them poking their finger. If you need that level of intensity for your mitochondria to repair, and we talk about what that means in this course, it really is important. It's not just like, oh, that's a little detail. Though it's absolutely that science that I don't expect the keto coaches to know how to unpack what happens inside a mitochondria. It's not that they couldn't learn it, but they've got plenty of other things that they're focusing on, which is how do you keep the patient engaged? How do you create that relationship? How do you find attraction to come and let a keto coach help you? Let the physicians do this part, or at least a layer of it. And then finally, when in this class, this very first class, I have a bonus video that comes with this class, and that is the fasting cycles. And I don't take time to go through it here, but the fasting cycles have to do with the ultimate stress that we put on someone's metabolism, on their mitochondria. Who would I do that to, and why? And that final video is probably my favorite. I love it. But it's a bonus just for this class where I want to hear feedback on the first 4 modules. And then that 5th week will be this advanced fasting cycle module that I think is really beautiful. I love how that turned out. So finally, the other reason that I wrote the book and I'm doing the workbook and I'm trying to do this online course is that people needed guidance. There's a reason there's not very many physicians out there doing consults from across the country advising medically. I live in South Dakota and there's rules against that. Currently, I'm in Hawaii and I don't have a license to practice here. So the rules are I cannot do that here. I actually think that's what God had in mind in order for me to finish this book, was take away the ability to see patients for a while. And it's heartbreaking for me, but because I love it. I love seeing patients. That intimacy and relationship is the reason I'm still a physician. But that's not that you don't need a personal relationship with a physician to educate on the ketogenic diet, but you do need a forum where everybody inside the group is at a minimum level of understanding. And so as I look at my goal for I have a private Facebook group called the Dr. Boz Neurons, mainly because I really like how much it helps the brain, but those mirror neurons are what I'm trying to get people to do in their own communities. And I want the minimum level of education in this Facebook group, so that I never have somebody ask me again, what is a ketone? I'm patient, but I'm not that patient, I guess. So when I look at the places where I think my team, who's very well educated because they've been coming to my support group for the better part of a year, they've seen me answer questions. We have clips of me teaching other people within my support group, how did I handle that? What does it look like to have a check-in? And just having that platform to learn from, I hope anybody who takes this course uses this course as a way to start your own support group. And it would be amazing if that support group was open sourced and free. It was and we go through what makes a good group, what doesn't. This is not just a whimsical opinion. This is 20 years of running an addiction recovery programs for helping people change behavior. And I do think that is the mold of what happens to an internal medicine doctor who takes care of chronic brain illnesses and then finds the ketogenic diet. That's what this is.
Please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos. Stay tuned.